Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Beth Brown. She's a award-winning author, breakthrough coach, speaker, Women Empowerment Award recipient, and founder of the Black Business Connector. Welcome to the show, Beth.
Yes. Good morning, AJ. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
welcome. Welcome to the show. Beth, welcome to India in this online form. And
Yes.
I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll learn about freedom through forgiveness. We'll talk about all this from you. We'll learn about all this from you. But before that, let's learn a bit more about you, about your
Sure.
journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Oh, yes, of course. So, yes, hello, everyone. And again, I am so delighted to be here with you all. Thank you, AJ. Yes, my name is Beth, and I am a breakthrough coach. And that means that I help my clients to map out new life success stories after trauma or heartbreak so that they can forgive themselves, have happier and healthier relationships, and just in general enjoy their lives more. So that's a bit about me as a coach. Prior to being a coach, I've also been a photographer for over 10 years professionally. That is actually my first business. And I was also a teacher for 20 years. So one of my strengths as a coach is I'm really good at teaching people, how to go about making some life transformations that they want to enjoy. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to understand, so many things you've done. You've been to photography, breakthrough coach. How did you make this whole transition from photography to being a breakthrough coach? And then you are also empowerment award, women empowerment award recipient for what?
Yes. So I have done a lot of work in the community, just in general, with bringing people together, helping people connect, and just empowering people in both their businesses as well as personally. So I think that's why I was awarded the Women Empowerment Award. Yes, I actually still am a photographer. I still shoot all the time. But one of the things that I always noticed, uh, most of my clients are not models. A lot of my clients are just regular people. They may be business owners, or they just, may not even have a business. But sometimes people aren't comfortable with themselves in front of the camera. And so actually the coaching and the photography, even though they're separate businesses, they do kind of go together because you get in front of a camera and you might feel like the spotlight's on you, and you might feel a little shy or introverted all of a sudden. But coaching people even in just how to be comfortable with themselves in front of the camera, I guess that was part of an entryway into uh, other levels of coaching. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. But now to understand, you talk about forgiveness, self forgiveness, and evicting fear. So, when you
Yeah.
talk of forgiveness, uh, what does forgiveness actually mean? Because something happens, you move towards either go to the legal system or to
Yep.
anywhere else where that thing has happened, and then you ask for some grievance redressal, and
Yeah.
that happens or does not happen or take a longer lot of time for that. When
Yeah.
does this forgiveness come in? Where does self forgiveness come in between? Help us understand about these things. How did you experience any of these things yourself, and you had to decide either to forgive, self forgive? How does it work on the ground?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, I love the questions you asked. It is so good. This is such a juicy topic. I love talking about forgiveness. No, I was not always a forgiving person. I consider myself a recovering perfectionist. And I love that you use the legal system, because that is really, uh, when something happens to us, whether it's something that we've done or something that someone's done to us or something that we have done to someone else, right? Because sometimes we need to be forgiven for something we've done to someone. It is a debt we owe. We have done a grievance, as you said, against ourselves or against someone else, or someone has done that. And it's absolutely normal and totally okay to be angry about it, to be upset about it, to be hurt. Forgiveness does not mean that you pretend that you're not hurt. It doesn't mean that you pretend nothing bad happened to you or that you didn't do something bad. I think forgiveness does require us to really look at the problem of what actually happened, what went wrong. And so this is something that I had a debate once with someone on TikTok. So I do believe, from my own experience, from practicing forgiveness, from coaching other people, and just also even talking and interviewing other people who've had forgiveness journeys, that it's a choice. And people will be like, no, it's not a choice, it's an effort. But all choices, especially if they are good for us, do require an effort. They do challenge us, and they're not necessarily easy. But those choices, if we're going to be benefited from them, think about being born, right? So we all start out inside of our mother's womb, and we come into this world. And when we come out, then eventually there's the afterbirth, there's the umbilical cord that comes out. And that's what has been tying us to our mother our entire lives inside of our womb. That's how we've been getting our nourishment, right? But once we're out, it's probably a little scary. Maybe this is why none of us remember birth. I'm sure it's very traumatic. But we have a choice when we're born that we're going to live, that we're going to breathe on our own, that we're going to eat on our own, that we are going to grow on our own. And yes, we have supports. Our parents are hopefully going to be good parents and help us. And if our parents aren't there, then, there's other parental figures or guardians or different people who come into our lives to help us. But we have to make that effort and that choice to continue and live. And it's very similar to forgiveness, right? Forgiveness gives us like this chance of being reborn. We don't want to be connected to the person who hurt us, right? Or even if we hurt ourselves or we hurt someone else, we have to kind of sort of metaphorically cut that umbilical cord and choose to make the effort to like begin mapping out and begin writing new life success stories for ourselves, for our relationship. It's not easy, right? We have to kind of learn all over again sometimes how to be. And this also doesn't mean, I think sometimes people, and then I'm going to stop because I don't want to give so much. I want to give you a chance to answer, ask more questions. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. But when we forgive someone, it doesn't mean that there's no consequence for that person. Maybe there does need to be actually a court of law that comes into place. We can still charge someone for crimes. It doesn't mean we didn't forgive them. Also, sometimes forgiveness does not mean a relationship continues. With self-forgiveness, obviously, we must continue our relationship with ourselves. But sometimes, people will be like, oh, if I forgive this person, they still have to be in my life. Well, not necessarily. Maybe yes, maybe no. Would that relationship be reconciled? So it's not like necessarily a one size fits all. You kind of have to like figure it out and see how this will go. But forgiveness is really the most important gift you will ever give yourself. Yes.
Absolutely most important gift. And I'm very much here, except there is some problem with the camera, so I'm just but you can hear my audio. So Beth, I want to understand, when you talk of forgiveness, let's talk about forgiveness. So how should we look at forgiveness? Because a lot of people want to forgive others if they have done any harm to them. Yeah. But at the same time, they have this sense of justice.
Yeah.
If police officers start forgiving, there will be no justice. If we also in our lives start forgiving people without getting justice for ourselves, how do we then find that sense of justice, that sense of righteousness, that the society will collapse? So I want to understand then, how should we look at forgiveness? How should we look at letting go? How should we look at our desire for justice? How should one look at that?
Yes. Well, forgiveness and justice are not necessarily the same thing. So you can forgive someone and justice still be served. So by forgiving someone, say someone, God forbid, someone's child is murdered or someone's spouse is murdered. That does not mean that that person does not go to jail, that they don't get the full sentence for their crime, right? But what it does allow us, the forgiveness does allow us to still wish that person well, that while they're in jail, they are learning from their mistakes, that they are reconciled back to God, that they are reconciled in some way back to themselves, for that human to still evolve. And, there's definitely a difference between forgiving someone and releasing them in our hearts and on a spiritual and emotional level, so that then when we hear their name or we think about it, we don't want to go vomit, or we don't want to go kill them, right, ourselves. But we just kind of it doesn't mean we even forget about what happens. It just means we're not ruminating against it and holding it in our hearts, so that we are, we really don't want to be connected with that person. So that forgiveness allows us to separate that emotional, spiritual connection of always having to keep up with that person. What are they doing? What are they doing now? Oh, are they getting punished? Are they feeling bad enough for what they did? Are they sorry enough? That takes us away from actually being able to enjoy the rest of our lives. But definitely justice can still be served. We can still go to court. We can still testify against someone. We can still send them to, prison for their consequences. Absolutely. Yeah. Does that clarify?
Right. Yes, indeed. So now let's look at self-forgiveness.
Yeah.
Now, many a times we are unaware of things, we do things, we think things, and sometimes we think that our past actions, present actions, they were not in that correct line, and we feel bad about it, we feel guilty about it. We don't know whether we can say sorry to the other person, whether even when we are saying sorry to the other person, we seem to still be in that same zone of feeling guilty or whatever our emotions are. How should we look at self forgiveness? And a lot of times, many of times we are dealing with a lot of people with different mindset. They think, because there is this concept of self forgiveness, I can go and be unaccountable to about things, not be responsible and about things. And because self forgiveness is very much in existence. So, how should one look at self forgiveness? What is the right way to look at self forgiveness, Beth?
Yes. So, well, I don't know if there's a one right way, but one of the things about myself as a coach, as a breakthrough coach, that makes me a little bit unique is that everything that I teach at its core is actually based in the Bible. And so what I have found in terms of self-forgiveness and even the ability to forgive others, but we really have to live with ourselves because we're always going to be with ourselves, is we really have to be able to redefine our identity. And so sometimes it's very hard. And so seeing ourselves from a different perspective. So what I like to do, it doesn't mean that it makes excuses for bad behavior or anything. And it doesn't mean we're not responsible for rectifying mistakes that we've made to the best of our ability. We're still responsible. But and I think that's the first step actually in being able to forgive ourselves is being able to be honest. Sometimes we don't want to be honest and we have to say, you know what, this is what I did. This is what I said, and we have to be honest about it. And then secondly, we have to kind of get curious about what would happen if I did things differently. Curiosity is very key in general for, I think, forgiveness of self or others or just in general life success. Like, what would happen if I did forgive myself? What would happen if I forgave someone else? What would happen if I did this? What would happen if I started a business? What would happen if I got a new job? Whatever it happens to be. So getting to be curious, and then that whole different perspective shift. So I am going to have my own perspective on myself, and seeing how I am from God's perspective, what God's word says about me, is a whole different perspective often. And so what I teach and what I have found in my own life personally is seeing myself from God's perspective will help me kind of like, and has helped people that I've coached get to a place where they're like seeing themselves from a higher level. And so they'll, level up, or they'll elevate to that new perspective. I think in general, we humans, we only rise as high as people around us expect us to rise. And if God says that, for example, I am beautifully and wonderfully made, or that you are beautifully and wonderfully made, then my standard is like, oh, I'm up here, I must be beautifully, wonderfully made, not like down here of like, oh, I'm trash. So having someone who says something great about us helps us to bring ourselves up and to forgive ourselves. We really have to get a different perspective. And sometimes from the spot we're in, we only see ourselves from that perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's much to learn about forgiveness, self-forgiveness. And also let's learn a bit from your book, Evict Fear, Getting to the Root Cause of Your Problems in 20 Days. Have you dealt about forgiveness and self-forgiveness in this particular book? And how is it related with, fear as well as anxiety?
Yeah. Well, no, I have definitely had, like I said, shared earlier, I am a recovering perfectionist. So that was something that I was always very hard on myself about, especially as an artist, as a photographer. And then you look at other people's work as an artist and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. And so I used to really hate my work. I don't anymore once I learned to be more compassionate about myself. But yes. And then I went through like a very traumatic experience, and really was like very judgmental about myself from that experience. And then after that experience, I had a relationship with a person and it didn't go well. And then I was very angry with him. And so heartbreak can make you really angry and unforgiving. But yes, there's a lot of fear at the base of unforgiveness. I have found it's like a root cause. Like, if I forgive this person, maybe they will hurt me again. If I forgive myself, maybe I won't be able to keep pushing myself. Like, if I'm not perfect enough, like if I don't do well, and if I don't do this with excellence, maybe things won't continue and I won't get whatever it is that I'm trying to get in like a professional sense. So we have to understand that we are not God. And what I realized at one point when I was being so hard on myself and so hard on other people was I was asking God to forgive me for things, and then I wasn't forgiving even myself. And so it was like, well, if God forgave me and that's good enough for him, then who am I to like say that's not good enough for me to give myself, or not good enough to give someone else? So I think sometimes we do have to let go. God has his actual own justice system. It's a very, I don't know for anyone listening to this, if anyone has read anything from the Bible, but he has a lot of policies and protocols set up. And so there's justice. And so sometimes we have to just like relax, let go, and allow life to take its course instead of us always trying to be in control. And when we stop trying to always control ourselves or trying to always control other people, I'm not just saying like just like have no boundaries and let everything go all helter skelter. Obviously we want things in order, but sometimes fear is based in like needing control. Like I have to be in control of this situation. I have to be in control of this person. Worry and anxiety, a lot of that is very control related. And the Bible actually says God does not give us a spirit of fear, but of sound mind and peace. And so anything that's like fear-based and causing us to worry is not from God. A lot of times we think, oh, if I'm not worried about someone, it doesn't mean it means that maybe I don't care enough about them. No, it just means that we're trying to control them, or we're trying to control ourselves. So having to let go and release that control and figure out what can we control, what is in our power, like what do I have the ability to take care of? Because there's a lot that we just can't control in life. But what can I take care of and nurture and pay attention to? And those are the things that, we should focus on. And all of that other, like trying to control and micromanaging, like let it go.
Absolutely. There's much to learn about forgiveness, self-forgiveness, about anxiety, about fear from you. And so a lot of people who would want to connect with you, Beth, what is the best way for them to do so?
Yes. In terms of social media, probably the easiest way to connect with me is on Instagram. And my Instagram is Babs, BABS, Photography, LLC. But also email is also good. My email is light@levelupwithbeth.com, or my website, which is about ready to go through some changes, but you can still get to me on my website, which is levelupwithbeth.com.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much, AJ. It was so nice. I appreciate you taking time. I know we're almost at a new year. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Same to you. Happy New Year to you, Beth.
Thank you.